Welcome to my presentation on how there are other methods outside of shock collars to train your animals. Now, in a survey I recently conducted, a large majority of you do not own shock collars or even support shock collars. A large majority of you actually hate it and believe shock collars have a moderate to very little effect during the training process. But this actually couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not saying this in defense of shock collars, but instead give you an understanding to why other dog trainers use shock collars. I am not saying this in their defense, but instead I'm saying this so you understand them, that you understand their point of view, and so you know how to change them, offer better alternatives in a more efficient way. If you want to better your community, better pet relationships with the people around you, do not judge them for using shock collars, but instead offer them new opportunities. Now, I myself own 2 pets of my own. Shane, our cat, back in 2013. And he was very easy to train, being he was a cat. All you needed to know was what a litter box was, when he was allowed outside and when he was supposed to be inside. Finn was very different, on the other hand. We got him when he was over 6 months old, and he lived for most of his life as a stray. This meant he was not very obedient, and he did not listen to us much. It didn't help that he was not incentivized by usual things such as treats or toys. And so we struggled for weeks trying to train him non-stop, but none of it worked. Eventually, my dad bought a shock collar thinking this would be a quick way to train Finn. This could be a good way. And so he used it. The moment he did, I felt sick to my stomach because Finn would not stop crying, begging for us to take it off. And so as soon as I was allowed to, I grabbed it and I tossed it away. And I tried nonstop for weeks ends after that to train him. And eventually I was, not through punishment, but through positive reinforcement. And now he's a well-trained good boy today, without the need or without the use of a shock collar. Now, over the course of this presentation, I'm going to go over 3 major points. Why dog owners use shock collars, the possible harms that come with using shock collars, and lastly, the positive effects that come with using positive reinforcement training. Now, according to my survey, a large majority of you believed shock collars had a moderate to very little effect during the training process, but that just isn't true. As according to Willard Burroughs, in Shock Collars in Dogs, A Comprehensive Guide, he writes, in fact, studies have shown that shock collars can be up to 90% effective in stopping undesirable behavior in dogs. It makes sense why so many owners would choose to go to shock collars, as it is quick and easy, and a 90% success rate sounds incredibly good to the average person. Not only that, but shock collars aren't the only form of negative reinforcement used on dogs. There are also e-collars that are seemingly more humane. They do not cause physical harm through shock, but instead through vibration of varying levels. And in an article by Why So Many Trainers Use E-Collars by James Murray, he writes, many trainers believe they offer a humane and efficient way to address specific training challenges. When you use an e-collar, you're no longer causing harm to your dog via shocks, but instead you're just doing small vibrations that instead annoy your animal, making it seemingly more humane and less harmful, which is partially true. And so now you know why dog trainers use shock collars, for they can be efficient, and there are more humane methods out there outside of shock collars that still use negative reinforcement. But I think now I will tell you about the possible harms that come with using negative reinforcement, such as shock collars and e-collars. As I mentioned earlier, a large majority of the participants in my survey did not support shock collars, but they never gave particular evidence or reasoning why, besides claiming it was inhumane. Well, here's some. In an article, 5 Reasons Not to Use a Shock Collar by the BCSPCA, the author writes, veterinary associations and humane organizations have long recognized that punishment-based training can be detrimental to animals. Not only that, but within the same article, they write, using aversive training methods based on fear and pain may result in your dog avoiding you or even becoming aggressive to you. If experts relating to dogs already claim the possible harms that using a shock collar could do to your animal, why should you use them? And not only that, but if you're trying to use a shock collar to train your animal, you're directly harming your relationship with it, because then your animal begins to fear you, to hate you, to despise you. Now, you might think e-collars are better because they don't have that harm. But that doesn't mean they aren't as inhumane or do not cause as much damage. In the article, E-Collars, Pros and Cons, What You Need to Know, by Aline Kessler, the author writes, research shows that this negative association can form in as little as 7 days. This means that our dog can start to associate our home or backyard with stress and pain rather than a safe and loving home. When you use e-collars, sure, you're not causing your animal physical harm, but if it's within 7 days, your animal begins to fear you, begins to see your home as an unsafe place because it is constantly being annoyed, attacked by little vibrations in its neck. That doesn't make it that much better than using a shock collar, as it puts these animals under the same psychological distress. And so now you know the negative effects that come with using shock collars. So I should now provide you with the much more efficient, much better methods that come with positive reinforcement and reward-based training. Now, positive reinforcement, although seemingly more intensive, can yield significantly better results. In an article called Scientific Benefits of Positive Reinforcement versus Negative Reinforcements, the author writes, studies have shown that dogs trained with positive reinforcement experience lower levels of stress and anxiety compared to those trained with negative reinforcement or punishment-based methods. By using positive reinforcement, you make it so your animals are happy, safe. Your bond grows with your animals. They no longer fear you, but they can love you. Unlike negative reinforcement through shock collars, which creates a fear in them. They begin to despise you and to hate you. Not only that, but in an article called Positive Reinforcement is More Effective at Training Dogs Than Electrical Collar, Studies Show, by Zazie Todd, they write, new research from University of Lincoln published today in Frontiers in Veterinary Science finds that in a typical situation where proponents of electronic collars often recommend them, positive reinforcement trained by trainers who specialize in reward-based training works better than training with or without shock collar by trainers who would normally use a shock collar. If it's proven by trainers who already use a shock collar that reward-based training yields far greater results, then why use a shock collar to begin with? Yes, it's 90% effective, but if using reward-based training is even more effective, more efficient, and yields better results, then why do you stick with shock collars when there's clearly stronger, more efficient methods out there? Now, e-collars and shock collars undeniably are effective, but there are better methods that exist out there, and these methods won't hurt your relationship between you and your animal. May it be positive reinforcement, reward-based training, and more. Now, I ask you today, do not blame other trainers for using shock collars or e-collars, but instead understand why they do. Understand why they use this to train their animals, and how there are other methods out there they can use to better train their animals, such as positive reinforcement and reward-based training. That there are better methods. Again, do not judge your fellow pet owners for using shock collars, but inspire them to use other methods. As in a quote from Sun Tzu, if you know your enemy and yourself, if you understand where your opponent is coming from, then you know how to deal with them. You cannot stop others from using shock colors through judgment alone. But you must understand them, why they use it, and offer them how there's more efficient, superior methods out there. Shock colors aren't the only way. And I think it's time you showed everyone around you that. Thank you.